Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Yinzer Brothers podcast. I'm TJ, and I'm here with my brother Tim, and we are the Yinzer Bros. We are 10-3. We had just off the victory of us beating the tar out of the terrible Browns. We beat them 27-14. That puts the Steelers atop of the AFC North, the mighty North, a 2-game lead over the hated Ravens. But this is when the meat grinder starts for Pittsburgh. You can see Tim is wearing the Franco's Italian Army hard hat from the 70s. I don't even know how it's still on your head because of that wire. That wire
it is. This wire is just cutting into my head like it's a thorn bush, man.
But it's because you got to do stuff for the victory. It's part of the victory.
I agree, but I don't know what type of diseases that I am actually getting on my head because of this thing.
Tim, everybody's got to take one for the team. So
I agree.
Hey, look, a little needle and thread fixes everything, man. If you start bleeding,
that's true. That's true. Rocky IV, it worked fine. And we all know that. So we're starting to meat grinder. We got the Steelers have 10 games in 3 days, which is ridiculous. These are the games. We got the Eagles, the Ravens, and then Chiefs on Christmas, which is nuts. Again, to start off the gauntlet, we have the Eagles. That being said, we, the Yinzer Bros, have a special guest with us today, Mr. Derrick Gunn, the timeless one. Those of you that are listening in Pittsburgh may recognize Derrick. He spent a lot of time, not just in Philly, but in Pittsburgh growing up. I remember listening to the Gunner, back in the Berg. What years were you in the Berg?
I was there from 1987 to 97 at WPXI.
Oh yeah, Channel 11, right?
Yep.
All right. So in all your years in the Berg, tell me, who were some of your most favorite players back then? Those were not like the hot times for the Steelers, by the way.
Number 10 for the Gateway Gators, maybe in 97 in that area.
Oh goodness. That's an easy answer. Greg Lloyd.
Oh yeah.
Carnell Lake.
He was amazing.
To be truthful, my dad thought he thought he could beat up Greg Lloyd.
Did he know Greg Lloyd's history about 6-degree black belt and built like a Mack truck?
We told him that, but you know what? He didn't. He's a typical Yinzer. He'd get mad at him, and I'm like, Dad, he would dismantle you in a dark alley. Greg Lloyd was a force, man. He was a force. Carnell Lake, I remember Carnell Lake. Who else? Yes. Who else
he would put Dad in a pretzel, and I would be there, and I'd be cheering for Greg Lloyd. I'd be like, "Yeah, get him, Greg."
Rod Woodson was a good friend of mine.
Oh man,
Chad Brown.
Yeah.
They had a great. Matter of fact, Levon Kirkland. I covered him forever, and then he ended up playing in Philly for a year. Shortly after I got here, he's like, "What the heck are you doing here?" So Levon Kirkland and I, we still chat on Facebook a lot.
So how big was Levon? Because he was the biggest linebacker I think I've ever seen.
I've never seen a linebacker that big. That man was like 6'3", 270 pounds.
That's insane.
And could move like the wind. I've just never seen a human specimen that big move that fast. Now you got guys who are 6'5", 330 running 4'4", 4'5", 40. I don't know what they're putting in people Fruit Loops nowadays.
I know.
But I'm telling you what, it's insane what these guys are running now.
Oh, it's scary. You're right. It's scary. We did not have any we didn't really have any juggernaut teams back in the times when you were there. Well, I guess it was 95.
Yeah,
did
won.
We go to the Super Bowl?
Went to the Super Bowl and lost to Dallas. And I'll never forget it because Neil O'Donnell, I love him to death. They still blame him for the 2 picks when, if people really followed the game, the wide receiver ran the wrong route. Neil was throwing to a spot. The receiver went the wrong way, but Neil got crushed for throwing those 2 picks in that Super Bowl.
He did. And I remember then the next year he goes to the Jets. He signs a big contract, goes to the Jets, and he stunk. And you know what? Every Yinzer, we were all happy about that because he didn't do well. I like Neil, but he just – he was a system guy. You get him out of the system. Yeah. It seems like anybody we send to the Jets or the Bears ends up usually stinking. I don't know why.
The mentality of Steelers fans is not that far off from Philly fans. You guys are about neck and neck in terms of the love-hate relationship.
Derek, I saw clips from last week. You guys won, and I'm seeing them wanting to have the Kenny Pickett experience. If they would like to have the Kenny Pickett experience, go for it. I was stunned.
I was doing my Gun on One podcast last night with a good friend of mine I used to work with at NBC, Dave Zangaro, who follows he's a beat writer for the Eagles for NBC. And the first question I asked him was, or early in the conversation was, When have you ever covered a team that was 11-2 on a 9-game winning streak? They won a game against an inferior opponent. They didn't win by 35 points, and yet the fan base is not happy. I've never had that happen. All the years I've been covering this game over four and a half decades, I've never seen that before.
No.
Insane.
That's absolutely correct. So that is the Philly fan base, which is very similar to the Yinzers. There's no, you can't please them. So let me ask you a question. What is Philadelphia's view of like the Steelers? You're a national guy. You look at all the teams, stuff like that. What are they saying about Pittsburgh?
They hate Pittsburgh. Philadelphia fans. In all the years I've been here, whenever they've played the Steelers, it was like a hate-hate relationship. Philadelphia doesn't. Basically, they don't like anybody outside of Philadelphia. But because they were the cross-state rivals, and of course, I would imagine there was a little envy, a little jealousy when you talk about the team in the western half of the state has 6 Super Bowls, and they barely got one in 2017. So there's probably a little envy as well. But there's nothing about Pittsburgh the Philadelphia sports fans like.
Well, that's good. I mean, we don't.
I'm just telling you the truth.
It's funny. Now, from a Pittsburgh perspective, I don't think we really. I mean, when you talk about our rivalries and the guys that we don't like, I mean, obviously that list starts now with the Ravens. It just does. The Ravens are, they were the old Browns and now they're whatever they are. We don't care for anybody in our division. And probably the one outside the division that we don't care for, other than the old rivalries with with New England, is probably the Cowboys. You guys don't like the Cowboys either. Does anybody like the Cowboys?
Like is an understatement. But the funny thing is, Philadelphians hate when you look at the NFC East, Philadelphians hate Dallas more than the other 2 teams in the division. When you go to Dallas and talk to them, they're not as hateful towards Philadelphia. To them, their more historic rivalry is with Washington and the Giants. So they put Philadelphia somewhat in the back view mirror, even though Philadelphia has gotten the best of them in recent years. It's a weird dynamic in terms of it's like a Bermuda Triangle almost. Philly hates Dallas and anybody who associates with Dallas and disowns anybody who associate with Dallas. Dallas fans are like, whatever. But we can't stand Washington and the Giants.
That's the craziest thing.
But truthfully, I think that's kind of like the vortex with Pittsburgh. It seems like we hate Baltimore, but the majority of the teams in the division they all hate the Steelers. There's one common denominator I've seen. It's like they all hate. We are their get-up game. Truthfully, I mean, it's weird.
It's understandable when you look at the other teams in your division. Now, Baltimore's been pretty consistently good for years now, but you have a coach in Mike Tomlin who has never had a losing season. Most seasons he's in the playoffs. Can't say that about Cleveland. Cincinnati had a good couple of years run. They're not going to get in this year. And Baltimore, they won a Super Bowl way back in the early 2000s, but they've been up and down through the years as well. But your team has always, even in a bad year, your team has always been competitive. And again, I think it's that petty jealousy, petty envy of the other teams towards Pittsburgh. I mean, what Mike Tomlin has done in Pittsburgh is phenomenal. I don't think any other coach has ever equaled that. He's been there, 18 years now?
Yep.
19. This is 19 years.
And has never had a losing season. That's unheard of.
So have you had any time to see any of the Hard Knocks?
No, I have not. I have not watched it.
I mean, it is – you always had the stigma of Tomlin, and you never lost, but you never got a chance to kind of peek behind the Iron Curtain. Yeah. And it seems like now that you're getting a chance to peek behind the Iron Curtain, it's almost like more respect. You understand when players are saying, hey, I want to go play for him. Yeah. And it's just, I think fans, at least, because it seems like in Pittsburgh, it's 50-50. Fans still want to get rid of him.
Yeah.
Because, again, he's won and had the non-losing season forever. But they want to get past a playoff victory for the last, 7-8 years. So you have, and it's weird. You have 50-50. You want to get rid of him? 50-50 think he's the greatest thing,
They did that with O'Cowher. They did that with Noel. They did that with everybody. We're the same way.
Yeah,
they did. But seeing him on Hard Knocks, it's just like, I think it's, when you listen to Pittsburgh Sports Talk Radio the past couple of weeks, I think that tide has switched a lot. The 50-50 are coming around being like, I get it now. I get a look behind the Iron Curtain, see what he's actually like with his players. It's pretty cool to see.
When you want to run Chuck Noll out of town, nobody's safe. I mean, I covered Chuck Noll in the latter stages of his career before he retired. And that, of course, is when the team started to go down on the downhill trend. They couldn't wait for Chuck Noll. He's outdated. He's antiquated. We need a young, fresher approach. And I'm like, wait a minute. That man won you 6 Super Bowls. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
They couldn't wait to get him out of town.
No. So if you get he was, I'd never seen Hard Knocks till he texted me after the first one last Tuesdays ago.
Yeah.
He said, I'm ready to run through a brick wall. And I think what it was is you saw like Tomlin against the other 3 coaches. Harbaugh's got a little bit of swag.
Yeah.
The other 2 guys, I don't know how that dude from Cleveland won Coach of the Year twice. How do you win Coach of the Year twice and do absolutely nothing?
I don't get it either. I mean, we have a coach here in Philadelphia. This is his 4th season. He's never had a losing season, and he's taken his team to the playoffs every year. And yet people here are so indifferent to him. Earlier in the season, when the team was really struggling and found out that he was had a hand in calling plays, people wanted him fired on the spot. Matter of fact, they didn't even want him to come back after the bye week. And all of a sudden, they're in love with Nick Sirianni because his team is on a roll right now. And, of course, Nick is a very high-strung individual, very passionate, very emotional. And he has a security guard named Big Dom. We call him Big Dom. And Big Dom's a big boy, about 6'3", 300 pounds. And Big Dom gets more notoriety nationally than Nick Sirianni because Big Dom basically keeps him in control. When the Eagles went on that tailspin, losing 6 of their last 7 last year, Big Dom was suspended because all he did was get between 2 players to break up a fight. But because he was not a coach, you're not allowed to cross that sideline. So he was suspended for the last 7 games. Now, what the Eagles did in the offseason was they made him an assistant coach, so he has a right now to go across that line. But Big Dom is respected as much as Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman in that building at the NovaCare complex.
That's great. So just since we're talking about coaches, who are your top 5 coaches in the NFL right now? If you were to pick 5, who are the top ones?
Oh, my goodness. Well, Sirianni would have to be in the mix. Andy Reid, I love him to death, and every time they win something, I text him, hey, Andy, if you got a spare ring, send me one, please. Definitely Andy Reid.
He's amazing.
Wow.
Of course, Mahomes doesn't hurt that either, does it?
No. But let's see. I would have to say also Matt LaFleur in Green Bay.
He's done a good job. You talk about quarterbacks. They just keep finding quarterbacks under rocks.
I know. They've only had 3 quarterbacks since 1992. Think about that. Cleveland has had over 30 different starting quarterbacks in the last since like 2000. Okay,
that's crazy.
Green Bay's only had 3 primary quarterbacks since they traded for some guy named Brett Favre back in 1992.
Crazy.
But man, that's a really good one. Let's see. I love Sean McVay. His team's struggling, but I love Sean McVay. Kyle Shanahan is an excellent offensive mind. You can put basically any quarterback in his system, and if you look at the volume of quarterbacks he's had in his system, they've all had success. So I would definitely have to put Shanahan in that mix, and let's see who I want to put Harbaugh in there. I knew Harbaugh when he was a special teams coach here, and then he was a DB coach. Just good guy. And, Baltimore seems to find its niche. They always seem to find a way to blow it in the playoffs. But Harbaugh, there's a reason he's been there for more than a decade. Players love him. The organization respects him, and he gets results.
Yeah.
Now, I know I'm leaving somebody out, but I can't think of him right now. But I'd have to say
you're leaving Mike Tomlin out, D-Gun. You're leaving Mike Tomlin.
Oh, my goodness.
I was going to say that, but, you were going. I was like, hey, we're leaving Coach T out of this.
That's okay.
Wow. You know what? I beg forgiveness, gentlemen.
No.
From the YINZERs. I beg forgiveness.
Well, we YINZERs forgive you, but I don't know. Actually, who knows at this point, but I don't know. Yeah. I think for me, Tim is not a huge Tomlin fan, but I think the tide's turned with him since he's been watching the Hard Knocks. He's brilliant. Yes. He's brilliant. He's an incredible motivator. So he's got I've always loved Tomlin. I think he's amazing.
Well, let me ask you this, Tim. What is you don't like about Tomlin? Because, I know a lot. The fan base in Pittsburgh has been indifferent towards him as well. Through the years. The man basically keeps you relevant for 18, 19 years, and yet fans are indifferent just because he has only won one Super Bowl?
To me, and again, it's probably because we're spoiled I'm a spoiled fan base. I don't getting to the playoffs isn't the standard. Winning Super Bowls is the standard. And to get to the playoffs, especially and some of the teams they had with Ben and Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell.
Our personal friend Le'Veon Bell, right?
Yes. To me,
hey, we did stuff. He's been on our, we did stuff.
I just
wait. You've had Le'Veon Bell on your podcast?
Not directly.
Oh, geez.
we were at a session in Vegas and he was doing some stuff, and I got to ask a question, and then we got some pictures with him, and he answered my question, and we put that on our Yinzer Bros stuff. So he's been on, but like, Derek, he doesn't know
picture.
He was on.
That picture, we look like two Muppets in between
Le'Veon
Bell between us. But I think I want to see something get over the hump. You know, I mean, you're so used to kind of mediocrity and just getting there and being over 500. You want to kick the door down, and you kind of get at some point it gets stale.
Sure.
Is that
sure?
Is that kind of where I'm at?
Yeah. But be careful. Be careful what you ask for, because what's out there may not be as good as what you already have.
And that is always the thing. It's like he asked me who you replace him with, and
do you want
there's not that many.
Do you want Eberflus coaching your team?
No.
Just saying.
No, I don't.
Okay.
No,
just saying.
No. Like, to me, the coaches that I would maybe want to see,
yeah,
they're with other teams, and they're not going to leave to come to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Okay.
Ben Johnson does intrigue me a lot though too, from Detroit.
Very good coach. Yes.
He does intrigue me, but I to me he's a top 5 coach. I'm not gonna. I just want to. I want that Super Bowl taste. I want that deep run in the playoff taste that I haven't had in 10 years.
That's understandable.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's been time. So we're going to break down the game here in a second. But before we do that, let's take a look at the Yinzer mailbag. What is the Yinzer mailbag? It's when the Yinzer fans get to write anything they want for us, the Yinzer Bros. Again, if you've got any questions you want us to answer on this international podcast, we have one Canadian listener, so we're an international podcast, Derek. One Canadian listener. Hey, international is international. If you have
nothing wrong with that. I mean, you're not.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We're pulling from the great north. We're pulling from the great north. So it could be great. So if you want to email us, you can email us at yinzerbros@gmail.com. And if you're lucky enough, you will get on this international podcast. Tim, what is in the Yinzer mailbag today?
Derek, I will warn you, these are going to be pretty much Steeler-oriented questions.
Okay.
You know,
right.
So you could, if you feel neat, jump right in. I guess one of the questions we got is how worried are we the Steelers have failed to score TDs early in games?
You know what? I think it is. I mean, obviously, we are a slow getting started team. I don't know why. But you know what? Once Russ starts cooking, he starts cooking. Now, I am a little nervous this week because George Pickens has got this bad hammy. Yeah. He isn't just a weapon to score with, but he changes the defensive game plan from the teams that we face. So
he's an absolutely crazy person, though. That's the only
he is nuts.
He's
crazy.
Absolutely crazy person.
He is. Have you seen some of the clips of him, Derek? Like, he'll grab people in the face mask, throw them into things.
Oh, yes.
I mean, why do we got these great receivers like Antonio Brown? You know, we Claypool we sent to the Bears for an first round draft pick, and they're fine for a few years, but then they go crazy. I don't know what that is. Is it the Pittsburgh
Deontay Johnson?
What is it?
Deontay. Yeah, Deontay. I like him. But when he left Pittsburgh, he hasn't been the same receiver.
No. So did you hear what's happening with him and the Ravens? So they actually suspended him a game because he would not go into a game. I don't know what happened.
Oh, geez. Let's see. You're making a 7-figure income. You are one of a elite 1,700 fraternity. You are envied by millions because they live vicariously through you because they weren't good enough to do what you're doing, and yet you spit on the one chance in life that you get to do what you do and set yourself up for life. You know, there's a lot of players like that in the NFL. I don't understand it. I really don't. I don't understand the mindset. Even if you're losing, the bottom line is you get to put on that professional football uniform. I don't care who you play for. You know, and for some of these guys to hold out, like they had a problem with Romeo Doubs in Green Bay. You know, he missed a few practices and nobody knows what the heck he was doing. He was suspended a game. So what happened? He comes back to the next game. He has over 100 yards receiving. But where's your mindset, man? You were a low-round draft pick. It's not like you're Jerry Rice or somebody like that. You're afforded an opportunity, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity across the board, and I mean all professional sports, to do things that most of us only dream of. And yet some of them, whether it's drugs, whether it's DUIs, whether it's domestic violence, some of these guys just can't get out of their own way of putting themselves in a bad situation.
I'd kill for 4 plays, Derek. Just give me 4 plays.
4?
So let me be a holder.
So
something,
Derrick,
4 plays.
well, let's ask Derrick about. Tim's got this idea in his head, Derrick, that he has got 4 plays in the NFL.
We gotta make sure there's a. It's not like I don't want to be playing middle linebacker for 4 plays or something like that. I think I could hold on an extra point. 4 plays. I think I can do that.
I don't even know if you can get down in the stance to hold the ball for the extra point. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm just saying.
It's a great rebuttal. It's a great rebuttal, Derrick.
Do you have any hamstrings left?
No, he doesn't.
No knees left. The knees, the hamstrings are good. Knees are bad.
And he's got one good shoulder. So I'm trying to tell him how elite these guys are. He thinks he is so delusional.
You don't think
he's
I
got
could
4
take
plays.
4 snaps in victory formation?
No. In victory,
victory formation?
Wait, at what position?
Quarterback. 4 snaps in victory formation.
You probably get a concussion. No.
Tim, when have you seen 4 plays in victory formation, Tim?
Yeah, really.
What do you mean?
When do you ever see 4 plays in a row in victory formation?
That's a great point.
Instead of taking a knee, he probably tried to dive over the pile and hurt himself.
He'd do the tush push, but his tush is pretty big, Derrick.
I wouldn't want if I was trying to die. I wouldn't want people to see the P on the back of my pants as I was. There's no way.
Carted off the field.
No way.
My goodness.
If I got down, I think I could hold for 4 plays.
So, Tim, this is how he treats the body. Tim, what were you eating right before we got on this podcast tonight? What are you addicted to? What were you eating?
I had a couple Haribo watermelon gummies.
How many bags? So we went to Vegas. Did you have 10 bags and 2 at the airport?
I had a couple. I had a problem at that time.
So now you've kicked the habit of the Haribo, the little watermelon gummies?
Yeah. I caught myself in the mirror at the gym about a month ago. I said, we need to lay off the Harbos.
Yeah, but did you eat all 10 bags before you arrived at that conclusion?
No, this was after the Vegas trip. I came back. I saw a couple. Right. I saw a picture of me in a luchador mask, Derrick. Yeah. And my head looked like it looked like you could see it from outer space. I said, between that and then I looked at myself in the mirror. I said, we need to cut back on the Harbos just a little bit. Tonight was just a weak spot. It was just a weak spot for me tonight. I had to have.
That Melissa's a lucky woman, Tim.
Yeah. She's in the other room, throwing up in her mouth as we speak.
Man.
So what else you got in the injured mailbag, Tim?
Okay. So let me see. At this point, who is your offensive MVP for the Steelers?
Offensive MVP?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I think how can you not? I mean, if you talk about team MVP, I know it's weird.
It's Chris Boswell.
He's ridiculous because he's just kicking. But if I got to say offensive, I mean, the one that took our offense from where it is and took it to another level is Russ. It's got to be Russ.
Yes.
You let Russ cook. I mean, it's got to be Russ.
And I agree, but I also want to. I mean, TJ, that the one thing that's kind of starting to come over, the offensive line is actually starting to gel
They look great,
pretty nicely. Those especially Frazier and some of them the young cats.
First year guys, they look great. But you know what Russ brings stability.
I mean,
he's having a monster year. Yeah. I mean, holy cow. You know who else having a great year too for us? It's like he's been reborn as Cam Hayward. Holy cow. I mean, he ain't like their guy. He ain't like Carter like on the Eagles, but he's a force.
The Bears have to be the most idiotic franchise on the planet for letting the Philly get him. I talk to my buddies every day, and they're still trying to talk me into Darnell Wright was a better pick than him. I'm going, you guys, what are you guys doing? Talking about?
No.
Boy, he slid close enough too. I thought the Steelers may try to work some magic to get him, but we had so many holes. He's a good pick.
But see, I have to agree with TJ. I'd have to say it's Russell. I mean, he's 6-1 since he took over as a starter. This team was kind of floating aimlessly with Justin Fields under center. Now he won some games for you that kept you in the race, but once Russell took over, and everybody basically accounted him out after what happened to him in Denver. They accounted him out, but once it's always like one man's trash is another man's treasure, and a lot of times players that flourish in one system can't succeed in another. Obviously, with what happened in Denver, but he gets to Pittsburgh. And he's in a system now. They cater and streamline a system that plays to his strengths. And it looks like the Russell of old from Seattle, in terms of him moving around. Look at how many few times he's been sacked. Look at how many he's only thrown 3 interceptions. So he's playing that dink and dunk game. and he pirouettes and does what he does to stay out of trouble. He rolls out when he has to, throws on the run. Yeah, he's playing a similar style of football that he played in Seattle.
So is that your guys? I mean, the outside perspective out of Pittsburgh. That's all I kind of hear. Like from Philly. I mean, do you guys think this is a fluke, or is this a? I mean, what is the outside? Like, what are you seeing from your side, from the Philly side? Like, is Russ going to be, put it this way, a pumpkin it's about to turn midnight on? I mean, is that the perspective you guys may have, or do you think what he is doing is for real?
The general consensus, I would say, is a lot of people have respect for what he's been able to accomplish. And again, you go back to Denver, Sean Payton, you can see video of Sean Payton chewing him out on the sideline like he's some kind of rookie. And he gets out of there with his money, his mega contract, and comes to Pittsburgh and finds a happy niche here. I think the fan base here is expecting this to be like the Rock'em Sock'em type robot a game. Somebody's getting a blocked up. Their block knocked off in this game. And that's exactly what you expect between two cross-state rivals that consider them physical football teams. But I think for the most part, as much as the Philadelphia fan base respects Russell, they're more concerned with TJ Watt than anything else. TJ obviously was injured last year, wasn't himself, and he's playing the kind of ball he played prior to that. Now the interesting thing is, I just put this stat out on Twitter. TJ will be the fourth top 10 quarterback sacker in the NFL that the Eagles will face this season. The other ones were Myles Garrett, who had no sacks, Trey Hendrickson from Cincinnati, no sacks, and Dexter Lawrence from the Giants had 2. So between the three, those 3 top 10 sackers, they had a grand total of 2 sacks. This Eagles offensive line doesn't give up many sacks, and they know how to shut down premier edge rushers and premier linebackers, period. But, TJ is on another level in terms of how he gets to the quarterback. He'll be disruptive. He'll force Jalen off his spot a number of times. Will he get Jalen down on the ground? Jalen's lower body strength is incredible. A lot of quarterbacks crumble, like crackers when you grab them by a shirt and they just fall. Jalen breaks away from stuff that you don't expect him to. So the Steelers' front 7 are going to have to get their hands on him and wrap him up to get him down to the ground. But I think as much as they respect Russell, they're more concerned about TJ Watt.
That makes sense. No, that makes sense. Hey, he's one of those Wisconsin kids, man. I'll tell you what, they got a couple guys. Yeah. They got Benton, who's in the middle of Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And then you got that other kid, too. He's a little undersized. They put him behind Highsmith, this Herbig, who's just fast. I mean, it's just crazy.
Yeah. His brother, Nate, played with the Eagles for years, was an offensive lineman. Nate wasn't anywhere near as good as his brother, Nick, is playing football right now, yeah.
He was slated to be the starting center before he got hurt. And I mean, I know I think the kid they got from West Virginia, Frazier, is going to be a all pro when it comes to, like, in years to come. But the kid's a beast, he's a monster. But I mean, I know he was scheduled or slated to be the starter before he tore his knee up or something like that of the sort.
I think he tore a pec, didn't he? I think he ripped his pec or something.
No, I think that the tribal chief was the one that tore his
pec. Oh, you're right.
Back.
No, you're right. Yeah, he tore the pec. Yeah, I'll tell you what, man. Sam Ollie, man, you talk about he was a great pickup from you guys. Philly. Holy cow, man!
Man, I tell you what, he got lost in the numbers here. Basically, a solid player. He came out at the time. He was a free agent at the time. The Eagles had to pay a lot of players. You can't keep everybody in the National Football League.
Yeah,
and because they have Jeff Stoutland as their offensive line coach, there's no better offensive line coach in the National Football League than Jeff Stoutland. They had to make a business decision, and much as they wanted to keep Sam Allo, they had to let him go. You look at this Eagles offensive line right now; it's the top offensive line.
They're insane
in the National Football League. And even when one guy goes down, the backups come in; they don't miss a beat. You look at most teams in the league when they lose a premier offensive lineman, teams will attack that spot, endlessly and have a measure of success. From tackle to tackle, there's not much of a weakness with this offensive line. I mean, you got a 6'8" left tackle over here in Jordan Mailata. You got a 6'6" right all pro and future Hall of Fame tackle in Lane Johnson. Everybody thought when they lost Jason Kelce who's now on everything you can imagine, from
Yes.
cereal boxes to
Yes.
podcasts to has his own show coming up now, late night show coming up. But his understudy, who Jason, by the way, helped handpick when the Eagles were drafted a couple of years ago, Jason said, "This is the guy you want to get." He's played very well as an undersized center for the most part. So, and then they pick up Mekhi Becton from the Jets. Mekhi Becton openly said he had fell out of love with football. He didn't know if he wanted to play anymore. Since he's been here, he's been raving about what Jeff Stoutland has done for him, rejuvenated him, given him a new life, a new perspective on football. This dude is 6'6", 6'7", and
That's called the Jets effect. That's
yeah, yeah. So everybody loves Seumalo here, but the numbers didn't project him staying here, and I'm happy to see he's doing well in Pittsburgh because he's such a good guy.
It's very wild because you're starting to see and I know everybody loves Omar, great GM, but you're starting to see the Andy Weidel effect coming from Philly. And you could tell the past, two drafts, the trenches are just being rebuilt. And the line they have is going to be it's very young. And you could tell it's going to be a mauling, talented line, just like Philly's line is.
It's a blueprint from you guys.
It is. He's doing exactly what. And again, I don't know how much power Waddle had in the Philly organization when he was doing that, but you could tell his imprints are showing in Pittsburgh now, because you could tell by the drafts, man. They are just building up the trenches.
We were so grateful for that, Derrick, that we gave you Kenny Pickett because we loved you so much, and we just want to say thank you.
I still don't understand how he was such a highly regarded first-round pick. And I got to see a number of Steelers games when he was quarterbacking, and I'm thinking, this guy looks like the second coming of Daniel Jones. You think about
Derrick, you could tell your fans, I will donate a prime throwback Kenny jersey to any of those fans that they want from Philly that want him to start. I will get maybe a little big on him. It's a double XL, but I am more than happy to donate that
Tim
jersey
jumped on
to
the
one
Kenny
lucky
train.
listener out there in Philly.
He did. He jumped on the Kenny train right away.
Oh, my goodness, geez. Man.
You got anything else in the injured mailbag, Tim?
I think one that we'll probably touch when we get into who we think is going to win the game, but we can get onto that. I mean, he has who do you think the defensive player for the Steelers so far this year, MVP? If you want to touch on that, I mean, to me, everybody's going to point at T.J. Watt because he's probably going to win Defensive Player of the Year. Yeah. But I think Cam is playing out of his mind right now. I mean, Cam is. I like him, and I like Deshaun Elliott. I think he has been.
Deshaun Elliott was a great
spectacular pickup for the Steelers this year, man.
You know what, too? I'm going to say, man, Patrick Queen has really been playing great ball too.
He's starting to come on.
Yeah.
You talk about speed at linebacker, man. Grabbing him from the Ravens was, boy, that was just genius, man. Golly, he's a great ball player. Got head on him. All right. Well, again, if you got any questions you'd like to ask the Yinzer Bros, you can email us at yinzerbros@gmail.com. If you're lucky enough, you get on this international podcast. Let's take a quick look at the matchup. Well, it's a daunting game here. The Steelers and the Eagles. The Eagles have the number one defense in the NFL. The Steelers are 7th. So we're on the top half, but we're not the top. You guys are the king of the mountain, Derrick. What makes their defense so tough?
Their speed. Tenacity, and Vic Fangio has these guys playing out of their minds. They have this youngest starting 11 on defense in the NFL. Last year, a lot of people were suspect because Howie Roseman, the GM, refused to draft players for a long time from the SEC, and we had him on a show I was hosting a couple of years ago, and he said, when people are constantly asking you why you don't draft players from the SEC, you have to take notice. He said even his grandfather said, hey, you need to get some of these boys from the SEC on your team. So he goes out and gets Jalen Carter,
good pickup,
Jordan Davis, Nakobe Dean.
You basically just went down to Georgia and picked up everybody from the defense.
Nolan Smith.
That was the blueprint.
But the funny thing is, none of them really found their niche in 2023. Under Fangio, the first 4 or 5 games of the season, they still were not as dominant as they are now. And I think it took that long for them to understand Fangio's system and for Fangio to truly understand who he can put in certain situations and trust. because this defense right now, they were a poor tackling defense early in the season. All of a sudden now they're one of the better tackling teams in the NFL. But that front that they have, Brandon Graham was a huge loss for him. Brandon Graham's a good friend of mine. 36 years old. He was their best edge rusher before he tore his tricep. But he's still there, coaching the team, rooting his guys on. But, guys like Josh Sweat have now picked it up. Jalen Carter, you can't stop him.
That's what I'm. He's like
double
he's
team.
he's getting the oh my God, from the Rams. He's getting the Aaron Donald treatment.
Donald, yeah.
I mean, he's insane. The guy's absolutely insane.
His burst off the snap is ridiculous. A lot of times he gets between the gap before an offensive lineman gets in his set. That's how quick he is and how strong he is. Some people even compare him now to Jerome Brown, the great Jerome Brown.
Oh, he was
who played
amazing.
for the Eagles back in the 90s. Yeah.
Yeah. My goodness. So here, obviously the Steelers are kind of built like the Eagles. We want to, we do a lot of play action pass. We like to establish the run. Do you think the Steelers are going to be able to run on you guys at all?
That's a tough one. Not many people have. I know the Steelers have what is the top 10 running attack?
Yeah,
in the NFL.
Yeah.
Eagles defense doesn't give up many yards at a run. What happens a lot of times is opponents will gouge them in the first quarter or so, for a big play, 15, 18, 20-yard runs. All of a sudden by halftime, whatever adjustments they make, the running game is non-existent, and teams are forced to throw the football more. They're forced to come out of their identity, because then the Eagles offense, you were talking about the Steelers not being able to score in the first quarter. Eagles are the same way. Up until a couple of games ago, when they got 3 points in the first quarter, they hadn't scored in the first quarter all season. Okay? And they're a slow starting team, but by the second quarter, they figure it out, and that's where they pick up steam. And if the Eagles get on top of Pittsburgh and force Russell to throw the football more, then they want to have that balanced offense, Pittsburgh's in for a long day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're right. So what if the Eagles defense has a weakness? What do you think their weakness is?
I would say at cornerback, Darius Slay. Slay plays well at times, but Slay's getting up there and is, about 32, 33 years old now. Teams don't even throw to the side of the rookie Quinyon Mitchell. This kid they picked up in the first quarter
incredible,
is
man.
Ridiculous. They don't even throw to his side. You talk about respect. They don't even throw to his side. But Darius Slay gets picked on a lot, and I love the young kids. You have C.J. Gardner-Johnson at one safety. You picked up this kid, from Iowa.
Cooper
DeJean. And everything is meshed for this defense. In terms of a weekend, Zach Bond's a prime example. Zach Bond was an afterthought down in New Orleans, basically a special team player, part-time player. He comes in to Philadelphia in Vic Fangio's system. He's going to be an all-pro this year, not just Pro Bowler. He's going to be all-pro. He's one of the most disruptive linebackers in the game today. Nakobe Dean, another Georgia pick, got injured, missed a lot of the season last year. People thought he was too small to be playing inside backer. I was one of them. I thought he should be at the will linebacking position. Boy, did he shut up a lot of people in his play. This is a very young, very fast, very tenacious defense. There's a reason why they're only giving up 18 points a game. They bend, but they don't break a lot of times. They're one of the better red zone teams, defenses in the National Football League. It's going to be tough to score points on this Eagles defense.
So that's, now, we even won. I don't think we won in Philly since 65.
1965, yeah.
Good night. Now, here's the thing, too, now. Now, here's the great equalizer. I don't know if what is Russ, like 4-0 in Philly?
4-0 in Philly, 6-0 against the Eagles.
Really? 6-0 against the Eagles? Holy cow.
Yeah.
Maybe,
to me, it's
maybe.
I am curious, and you know better than me, Derek. How are those linebackers covering tight ends? Because to me, that would, from everything that I'm hearing, is that may be a semi-weakness, as a Freiermuth or somebody may have a day, because a tight end that can actually, and he's been coming on lately, move like Freiermuth may do some type of damage if they get some type of running game going. Truthfully,
he'll do his damage early, but they'll find a way to shut him down. They'll put Cooper DeJean on him as a nickel back. They'll switch it up. So the Steelers can't figure out who exactly they're going to attack. But the Eagles have been pretty good in terms of covering tight ends. They have so much speed on this defense; it's ridiculous. Freiermuth, he may have a good day. A couple of tight ends have had good days against this Eagles defense. But if they're relying on a tight end to be their primary weapon, if they can't run the ball on the Eagles defense, and not many teams have been able to, I don't think you want Russell Wilson throwing the ball 45 times against this Eagles defense.
I got a weird feeling that you're going to see Justin Fields a little bit more than you've seen him in other games. I have that weird, sneaky feeling because it's just
in a Wildcat.
Some way, some type of fashion. I think you're going to see him take more snaps to get something going with that defense. I don't know.
So let's flip to the other side of the ball. Let's talk about the Philly offense. That's Saquon Barkley. He was a pretty good pickup for you guys this year.
Wow. When you look at what he did with the Giants and how he excelled with the Giants against one of the worst offensive lines assembled in front of him, when he got to Philadelphia, a lot of people thought he didn't have much left in the tank. Boy, I mean, did he surprise a lot of people? I believe 10 out of 12 games. 8 out of 12 games, he's gone over 100 yards rushing. He's closing in on a record that many thought would never be broken in Eric Dickerson's 2,105 rushing yards in a season. He only needs like 400 something yards to surpass that. Maybe 500 yards in the last 5 games. He has been simply phenomenal. He's like the kid in the candy store or kid opening gifts on Christmas morning now. When you go from one of the worst offensive lines in the league to arguably the best offensive lines in the league, and they're not just opening holes for him, they're opening gaping holes for him.
Yeah.
You got guards pulling, you got tackles pulling across the field, you got a lot of athletic guys in front of him, and they've all said in unison they want to see him get that record, not just get to 2,000 yards. And the question has been posed here a lot, and I talked about it on my podcast last night. Let's say the last game of the season is a meaningless game.
Because I know it's against. I know who that team is against, which is funny.
Say he needs 100 yards to break Eric Dickerson's record. From a fan perspective, from a media perspective, let me ask you guys this, and then I'll give you my answer. Would you play him in a meaningless game, knowing that the opposition is out of the playoff race? You got a lot of guys playing for contracts that want to stay with that particular team. So they want to do something a little extra, and when you do something a little extra, somebody gets hurt. Would you play him just if he was that close to the record?
That game is against the Giants. Am I correct?
That's a practice game.
Yeah. Man, that's a tough call. Because you also probably got to throw in too. Once you get down that, he's probably vying for MVP also.
Yes.
Truthfully. So it's that is a wow, man. I'm always gonna lie on the side of the team is bigger. So okay. I would always I would say rest them. If you have that, if you got that number, you can have that 2 seed or 1 seed locked. That's just me. I want to see my best players go. That Lombardi is more important than the individual accolades.
It is. It has to be the big picture because he gets hurt. I mean, what are you going to do with? I mean, you gotta. And let's just be real. In Philly, if there's a chance you put him out there, he's getting hurt. It's not like even a 50-50. It's just going to happen because of Philly.
And the airwaves will light up tremendously if he got hurt. Jordan Mailata, who's their left tackle, was on a radio show, WIP, the other day, and he was asked that question: would you guys want to go out there, the starting offense, go out there to help Saquon get that record? Absolutely, emphatically, absolutely. So there's a possibility Nick Sirianni would put his starters out there in that last game against the Giants. Now, again, it's a divisional game. Eagles already beat up on the Giants once. Daniel Jones is no longer there to mess things up. I would play him. I would let him play. I would run that risk because what he's doing right now is on a historic level.
Yeah.
And why not? I think he's the most selfless player you ever wanted to meet. There was a game a few games ago where you see a video where the coach is sitting next to him and say, "Hey, you only need X amount of yards to break your all-time single game record." And he looks at the coach and says, "No, let the young dogs eat." That is selfless because a lot of guys will say, "I want to go back in the game and get my numbers, yada, yada, yada." Not him. Not him. This kid's the consummate teammate. Everybody loves him in the organization.
I love him too because he's on my fantasy team.
Oh,
love him. Love him.
Oh, my goodness.
He is. I mean, things are going well for me this year.
Good pickup.
See,
Tell us a little bit about.
I can never play fantasy football. See, I can't see myself rooting for another player on a team I don't like to do well, especially if I have that player and they're playing against my favorite team.
Yes.
I can't do it.
Here's my thoughts this week. It's round one of playoff week for me. I understand that he's going to Steelers. I am hoping the Steelers win and Saquon gets 100 yards. That's my perfect scenario.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
But I don't. If he gets 100 yards, I just don't see the Steelers winning. So that's where the double-edged sword is.
I think if they can keep him in that 100 range, that 80 to 90 range. I mean, if I'm a Steelers, this is my game plan: stop Saquon and make Jalen beat you.
Yes.
You're going to have to, but I'm just scared because last time Jalen and AJ Brown had a little.
They were good friends. Now there's a little bit of a.
Last time they had a little tiff. I think it was before they played the Steelers one year, and
AJ
Brown had like 1 million yards against us.
So tell me, what's the take on Jalen? What's your take on Jalen? I know he's a physical specimen, but he has been getting beat up a lot by the Philly media.
Basically, when you look at this Eagles quarterback, he's only averaging during this 9-game winning streak, he's only averaging throwing like 22 passes a game. Last game he threw for 108 yards. And people were complaining because you can't have a quarterback throwing for 108 yards and be successful down the road in the playoffs. Bottom line is they have a formula to win. This team is averaging 190 yards rushing a game. You can't get their offense off the field when they get going. They're putting people to sleep. They're wearing down defenses. That's their style. That's how they're going to play. Everybody else, they want the glamour. They want the high scoring games. They want to see your players stack up 150 yards receiving. That's not this team. That's not this team. That's not the formula for how they win. Everybody's a part of the equation. But let's face it, wide receivers in the National Football League are divas. There's no question about it, they're divas. They all want the football. Even when they're not open, they want the football. But with A.J. Brown, you can see the frustration because Jalen Hurts has missed him, wide open over the middle of the field, running down the sideline. Yeah, it's almost like Jalen looks at him, won't throw it, and then throws a tougher pass somewhere else in the football field. It's the darndest thing I've ever seen. And, of course, the last game you see A.J. visibly upset, takes his helmet off and throws it. And that, of course, got the fire started after the game when people were asking him in the locker room, what do you need to change? Passing. So everybody thought he was pointing the finger at Jalen. But basically what he was saying was, overall, Kellen Moore, you need to call a more balanced game. Well, why get out of character and do that when the running game has been your bread and butter up to this point? So from what we understand, Jalen's talked to AJ, AJ's talked to Jalen. And then, of course, Brandon Graham made the comment that, certain things shouldn't be talked about in public, should be handled behind closed doors. And then he added the fact that, hey, Jalen and AJ and I used to be close, but not anymore. And then AJ fired back the next day on Tuesday. You got to be careful who you hang around. Well, supposedly as of today, BG, AJ, Jalen, they've all had their discussions and apologized to each other for a number of things. But I will tell you this, come Sunday, a lot will be watched in that game in terms of body language, how the offense starts, and how they respond to the cross-state rival Steelers. And if somehow, some way, the Eagles lose this game, this whole week of stories is going to be magnified even more so next week. Not just because they lost to Pittsburgh, but because the outsiders looking in will feel there's something else going on. This team is about to crack. So, this is not that same team from 2023, but people are always worried about this team being cracked and mess everything up after this.
So, and I speak this from the bottom of my heart. I mean,
yeah.
I want you to have good, I want you to have success with your show. So if you need that drama, Derrick, I hope the Steelers can give you all the fire you need for that drama.
Yeah, I hear you.
All you need is that one little fire. That's kind of the one little fire early in the game, and
little spark. So we come to the end of this thing. This is good. Yeah. So you guys are 11-2. We're 10-3. Obviously, you guys had the advantage on paper. It doesn't look like we're going to have George Pickens, which is a big deal for us.
Which is it's a ginormous deal.
It is. Don't worry. One of our guys, what was the white guy with the long hair that looks like he lived in a trailer park? He stepped in. He'll be fine, Tim. What's his name? Skoronsky or what's his name?
Skowronek.
Okay.
I do like he can, he's a football player. That's what he's not a wide receiver. He's a football player.
Well, you know what? That scares me.
Hey, it is what it is.
Give me the diva. That scares me. I don't need guy. I want somebody to catch a ball and run past somebody at 4.3. That would be great.
Jeez.
That's not the size of a Oompa Loompa like Terrell Austin or like.
I get you, man. Yeah.
So what are your score predictions? Let's go. We'll go. Tim. We'll go you, Derrick, and then I'll give you mine.
No, you go first.
Predictions.
No, you go ahead first because I just
me.
My brain is like the hamsters. The wheels keep going like the hamsters is running right now.
I'm gonna go off of this. So I saw the highlights. I didn't watch the whole game.
Let's start this. He's predicted the Steelers to score 31 points the past 6 games.
Hey, I've been close.
Who they played against.
I've been close. Russell's been cooking.
He has been cooking.
So I saw you guys play Indianapolis. Indianapolis does not put fear in my heart, but it looked like, and I think our defense is better than Indy's defense. Actually, I think our offense is better than Indy's offense too. I think if the Steelers can keep you guys, if they can keep you guys under, if they can keep you under 20, I think we got a shot.
Okay.
So I'm going to say this. I'm going to say Steelers in a rock fight, 24-21.
Ooh. Wow. Well, both teams are giving up just 18 points a game, which is phenomenal in itself. Both teams pride itself in playing tenacious, nasty defense and being stout defenses. Both teams have a lot to play for. The Eagles basically have the NFC East wrapped up. I mean, Dallas stinks. Washington is still right there, but they already beat Washington once. They play them in a couple of weeks again. The Giants should relocate to the CFL. I really think there's no need for them to be. They need to get a whole new franchise. Roger Goodell in the front office need to be looking for a whole new location and jettison the Giants out of the NFL because they're an embarrassment to the league right now. But I think when you look at the overall firepower that the Eagles have, you have the best offensive line in the game. You have a running back who's on a historic pace. You have 2 receivers that last year both had 1,000 yards and both were highly paid this offseason, this past summer. You have an outstanding tight end in Dallas Goedert and his backup, Markel Katera. As good as this Steelers defense is, I don't know if they're good enough to handle all this diversified offense because you don't know who's getting the football in the Eagles, except we do know that Saquon's going to get at least 25. Unless the Steelers can find a way to stop him and keep him under 100 yards, I'm going to say the Eagles are going to win this game 28-24.
Okay, that's a good one. I didn't think of, just before Tim gets us saying, we had trouble with Indianapolis too. They beat us, and there's something about them that if we're a mirror to you guys, there's something about them that messes with what we do, and I don't know what it is, but it just
their coach Shane Steichen, when he was in Philly, gashed the Steelers. Mm-hmm. He has the secret formula against the Steelers. They did it the past 2 years in Indy. Indy beat us the past 2 years. There's some type of secret formula he has on offense that gashes our defense.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So Tim, what's your score prediction, Tim?
I thought about this left and right. Originally, I thought Philly. I mean, we may have favorable in two positions maybe on that field. Kicker's one. If it gets down to a kicking game, I'd be very nervous about Philly.
Yeah,
that's just me. But I originally thought Philly was going to just we have won there in 65, and when we go there, we get beat up. It's not like we lose; we get beat up physically bad.
Well, but Tim, it's the city of brotherly love. They wouldn't do that.
I agree. They, but
the X factor. You got Russell. Russell's what 4-0 against the Eagles, and
he is
what 6-0 in Philadelphia.
Yes,
something like that.
Let him cook, Tim.
Jalen Carter is a huge variable to, he's all he's do is stick up his hands, and Russ can't see over him anyway. So that's an issue. But I originally thought Philly was I thought they were going to beat the crap out of us. I thought it was going to be a blowout Philly's way. Okay. The more the week goes on, especially with GP not being there, the more the week goes on, I think the defense is going to have something cooked up for Saquon. I don't think they're going to. Last time played Saquon, I know it was years ago with the Giants. They held him to 6 yards. I I think it's going to depend on a lot of the guys. I think they're going to play a lot of man outside. I think Joey Porter Jr. is going to do a good job on A.J. Smith. For some apparent reason, he plays big receivers a heck of a lot better. Especially, they're two big guys. They're going to be fighting. I think Porter's going to get away with a lot of stuff. Devontae Smith scares the crap out of me. I think our linebackers will be able to cover Goddard. They're speedy. They're fast. So I think they'll be able to do a little bit in the box. Gets me a little nervous that Deshaun Elliott hasn't practiced this week. I don't think he's going to be out in the game. I don't think Ogunjobi's going to be out there either. So that gets me a little bit nervous. But I think the defense is going to keep it close. They got it, like you said, I think they got to keep it within 20. And T.J. Watt has to have a takeover game. I don't know if he's going to happen, but he needs to have a takeover game. I've seen him do it against good tackles. Philly has great tackles, but I've seen him do it against great tackles too. So, and on the other side, it's going to be tough because Lane Johnson is going to be going against Highsmith, and Highsmith's been great, but it's Lane Johnson. So, TJ has to have a game. Offensive wise, man, they got to run the ball. If they don't run the ball, they got to keep Philly. They got to somehow keep Philly's offense off the field. I think it's going to be a rock fight. Truthfully, I think it's going to be a rock fight. I'm thinking it's going to be like a 17-10 game, but I'm going to go with Philly.
That's not a bad
That's
prediction.
just me.
Yeah.
It could be. I don't know. Well, that's it for the Yinzer Bros this week. Derrick, thank you so much for being with us today.
Yes,
what's the name of your
Thanks
podcast
for having
again?
me.
Is it One on Gun?
Gun on One. Gun on One podcast. Yeah, you can get it anywhere you get your podcast. Last week I had Sal Palantonio on, a good friend of mine. And man, I tell you what, you talk about a guy who's knowledgeable about any and everything pertaining to the NFL. So yeah, if your listeners are not listening to the Yinzer Brothers, flip on over to Gun on One wherever you get your podcast.
So you had Sal Pal. What is the last time we had a high profile guest with us in the Yinzer Bros, Tim? There's that one guy at the Strip District. What was the guy that owned the Yinzer shop?
Oh, the guy that owned yeah.
I thought you were going to say it's a stripper. I mean,
no. That'll shut down the Yinzer Bros quickly. Trust me. That'll be his wife and my wife coming down with iron skillets, shutting that baby
trust
down.
me, I could hear my wife tiptoeing in the other room right now. What did you say? Yeah.
Jeez.
All right, I'm TJ. I'm here with my brother Tim, and we have our special guest, Derrick Gunn. Don't forget, if you like what you hear, pass it along to your friends, your neighbors, your enemies, everybody. Tell them about the Yinzer Bros.
I do have one more question for Derrick.
Yeah.
By any chance, are you good with putting together Barbie dream houses?
No.
Can I fly you out?
No.
I've been staring at a Barbie. I've been staring at a Barbie dream house downstairs in a box for about 3 weeks now, hoping somebody was just going to show up and put it together for my daughter.
Like an elf or Santa, Tim?
You know what? Where'd
Somebody.
you buy it? Where'd you buy it?
I bought it off of the Amazon.
Okay, good. I was going to say, if you bought it from a store, a lot of these stores now, they'll send people out and assemble it for you.
Tim's too cheap for that, Derrick.
No, not this. I would pay large amounts of money.
I would tell my wife, tell your daughter that Santa Claus nixed the gift. We just had to get you something else. We just couldn't do it. I'm just saying. There are things.
Come on, Derrick. Come on. You want me to tell my little girl, hey, Santa said no. You were bad.
No, you have to. No, what you do is you have to tell her somehow Santa missed the house. I don't know what happened. Chimney was stuck.
You know what she'd tell me? What? She would tell me, go outside. You better find Santa and track him down. And grab him.
You got one of those. You got one of those.
Oh, yeah, I got one of those.
Yeah, I got two girls that were like that when they were little. My son was like, okay, whatever. Not the girls. They were meticulous and still are. Girls are meticulous in terms of what they want. You know what? I'm praying for you, brother. I'm praying you have a divine intervention and God just, all of a sudden you wake up and God hits that light bulb. The light bulb comes on and you just bore through that thing. Man, when it comes to stuff like that, especially because a lot of these stupid things now have nothing but pictures. They don't even give you words anymore. They're all pictures, and half the pictures are grainy. I need triple laser bifocals to read this half.
Derrick, look at these hands. These hands are not made for 150 pieces on a Barbie dream house.
150 pieces?
Yeah.
Whose idea was this?
I don't know. I'm gonna see if I can talk my father-in-law into doing it, but he's probably gonna say no.
His hands are not built for that. His hands are built for eating them watermelon gummies and Portillo's hot dogs.
I had Portillo's tonight, and it was delicious.
I can smell it here over the airwaves. I can smell it.
Let me tell you something. If you can get your father-in-law to do it, to stay in good graces, I would buy him the best, whatever his favorite food is in Pittsburgh. Is he in Chicago or Pittsburgh?
We're in Chicago.
Okay, I would buy him the best meal you could possibly buy him, or I would get him now I was going to say a ticket to the Bears game, but nobody wants to see the Bears play. Anyway,
no, that would do the opposite, Derek.
Yeah. Or I would buy him an extra special Christmas gift, whatever that case may be. Now, your brother says that you're on the cheap side. I'm telling you right now.
That is a crazy statement. I went to Disney. Derek, I went to Disney twice in 1 year.
Oh, heck no. I've been once in my lifetime. That's enough.
Exactly.
No. But I'm telling you, if you get somebody to do it for, you need to roll out the red carpet. Now, if you're as cheap as your brother said you are, you need to take the glasses off the Benjamins in your pocket and let them see daylight for once, and hand some money over to somebody.
Unbelievable that I'm getting marked as a cheapskate on this podcast.
Tim,
when I said I went to Disney twice, I was pretty much staying at Cinderella's castle twice too.
Oh no, dude.
He was hitting that buffet too, Derek. He was hitting that Disney buffet.
And did we all hit that buffet?
That was good.
Damn.
Couple buffets.
All right, we're the Yinzer Bros. Stay classy, Pittsburgh.
We're still number one out here. Still.
For now.
Oh my goodness.
We'll see everybody next week.
Oh my goodness.